I'll never forget, I was working with a client and I had initially started helping him with dating and relationship advice. He was kind of the guy that like would go on a first date with women and women would be like, I just didn't feel that chemistry, and they would blow him off. And so he came to me and we started working on that, and then his whole life changed. He became the kind of guy that like wherever he traveled, women loved him. He got into a relationship with someone that he ended up not choosing because she wasn't for his highest good. And so he went on this whole transformation. But I'll never forget when he came to me and he said, Erica, I actually want your help with something else. And he said, how do I find my purpose? Because I'm living a great life, but I don't feel like I'm living my life out of any sort of purpose. And that may be a question that you might be asking yourself is, how do I find my purpose? Finding your purpose, it's something that makes you want to get up every day. It makes you excited about life. It makes your life even more rich. And we're going to talk about like, how do you tap into that? One of the quickest ways to tap into that is to find out, what is it that makes you tick? What stirs your desires? What pisses you off? Where has your greatest trauma been? Sometimes when we just sit back and we start asking ourselves these things, these are the clues, these are the checkers, these are the identity marks that say, hey, this is your path, this is your purpose. You know, for me, even as a child, you can look at the things that you've spent all of your free time in, and those will speak to you about your purpose. But as a child, I used to remember I loved to teach. I don't know why. I would like make my siblings, we had this little shed that I turned into a school, and I would make them go to school and learn, and they would get so pissed off. And then when they didn't come, I would get so mad and tell my mom, they're not coming to class. And she's like, Erica, it's their summer. They don't have to go to your school. But I just loved teaching. And then I loved performing. I loved like creating plays and things like that. And so there's like this whole creative side to me. And then as I got older, I realized that I had a real gift of wisdom into speaking into people's lives, giving them direction, giving them hope, helping them solve their biggest life dilemmas. It was like I just had this intuitive knowing that they would come to me with any sort of challenge in their life, and this innate gift of wisdom that I carry on the inside of me would come out. And at 14 years old, I knew the things that people needed to do to change their lives. It was, some people just have a gift of wisdom. I happen to be one of those people. And so I just remember following that and going, okay, what is it that really makes me come alive? What do I enjoy doing? I'm like, I love people. And so now for 15 years, this is what I've been doing. And guess what? I wouldn't ever stop doing this. I've changed it with this new channel of giving dating and relationship advice to now giving motivational advice to you guys, but it's still the same thing. It's still the same heartbeat of inspiring people to take action, to live their greatest lives, to be the champion, to be the hero of their lives. But when you find your purpose, I want to tell you this, it's different than just living a life that you enjoy. And this is what I mean by that. I'll tell you a story. I was living in Bali, Indonesia. COVID happened, and it was a huge thing. Like, you know, do you stay in Bali where, you know, doesn't have all the same amenities that I had in America, and it doesn't have the same hospitals, it doesn't have all the same support, the same infrastructure. And so I remember being like on this crossroad of do I stay or do I go? I made the decision to stay. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. But what I realized was that in my circle, during COVID, people started to lose their income. They started losing their jobs. And so they couldn't work. And you might be thinking like, oh, I don't need to find my purpose. I need to find a better life. But I watched my friends who didn't have purpose, who were not able to do a job because their jobs had gone away because of COVID. And I watched it, they still had the beautiful beaches, they had the beautiful cafes, they still had the yoga that they could go do, they could still go see waterfalls. They still had all the like luxuries and amenities of life and the freedom of life. But because they didn't have purpose, they were feeling bored, they were feeling empty, they were feeling uninspired, they were feeling insecure, they were feeling anxious, they were feeling afraid. Whereas I felt like I was in the driver's seat of my life. I felt like I was on the top tier of my game. Why? Because I had my YouTube channel, I had my clients that I was giving dating and relationship advice to do. I was living out my dharma. I was living out my purpose. And so for me, yes, I still had all the freedom, but because I was living my purpose, it gave me this zest, this hunger for life to want to continue to build and expand and develop and grow. It gave me this anticipation to fully embrace life with everything that I had. That's the beauty of finding your purpose, is there is a depth of meaning. It's like, why was I placed on this planet? How can I show up? How can I transform this planet? The biggest thing is, in finding your purpose, you have to believe that things are possible, the things that you want and desire, that there's always a yes. Because the desire is there is a yes. And most of the time we get caught up because we don't know how it's going to work and we want to be in control. But the reality is, when you're trying to find your purpose, you have to let go of control. You have to surrender. Because I beat my head against the wall trying to become an actress and a singer and a model and all this in Los Angeles, because I knew I wanted to have influence. I had no idea that if I just kept following my heart, kept pursuing the things that were important to me, that eventually there would be this whole world called influencers, that you didn't have to be in a Hollywood movie to have this influence. It was before social media was as strong as it is. And so what I'm saying is, when you live out of your heart and you surrender control and you don't try to micromanage everything, your purpose will begin to reveal itself to you as you live your life with intention. And I think that is the biggest difference of people who tap into their purpose and people who never will. People who are super intentional about their life, they're intentional about how they spend their time, how they personally develop themselves, how they expand, and the permission. I think that's a huge thing that we don't talk about when we're discussing our purpose, is people who pursue their purpose and have a purpose are people who have given themselves a yes, a permission slip of, yes, I can do this. I may not know how I'm going to do this. I may not have the right contacts. I may not have the right resources. I may have to build some skills. Let me tell you, when I got started in this, there are a lot of gifts that I had that support me today, but there were also a lot of skill sets that I had to develop. But when you find your purpose, you will pay whatever price it is to develop those skills so that you can live a more meaningful, a more rich, a more fulfilled life. And so I want you to ask yourself, am I intentional about my life? Am I intentional about my personal development? And am I willing to have the courage to say yes to the things that I desire and dream of? Or will I inhibit myself with insecurity, fear, doubt, limiting beliefs? Really, we have a choice. We can either allow those limitations to continue to dictate our lives, or we can get in the driver's seat and say, I'm not going to be a victim to my limitations, that I'm going to go through the discomfort and expand myself to move out of my constriction, because you might think that your circumstances and people are confining you, but you're actually confining yourself. And so you quit confining yourself by starting to say yes. I don't know how it's going to happen, but yes. I remember learning that as a young budding entrepreneur in my early 20s. I remember going to this conference. It was Mark Victor Hansen, and the other guy was Robert, oh my gosh, I can't remember the guy's name. It was like the Millionaire Summit, something like this. It was, anyways, they said, when life gives you opportunities, always say yes, and then figure it out from there. And that's what many entrepreneurs do. It's like when they get a task, when they get an opportunity, they say yes and they figure it as they go. But what traps many people from finding their purpose, what's blocking you from finding your purpose, is you're probably saying no to a lot of things because you're afraid, you don't know how, and you don't want to feel powerless and feel out of control. But it's also costing you a meaningful life, a more fulfilled life. So if you want to find your purpose, you've got to start giving yourself permission. And when you say yes, then you start investigating and going, what are the things that if I never made money, I would still do it. And then you figure out, how do I make money doing this, if that's important to you, which hopefully it is. Asking yourself, like, what are the things that matter? Where do I want to create change? What are the things that I did as a child when I was free and liberated? And how has some of that been the identity points, the identity markers in defining to me what my purpose is? If you need more help with that, get my free course, Become the Damn Hero of Your Life, because this is really going to empower you to know that you can do these things. You can find your purpose. You can live a life of freedom. You can live a life that's rich, where it's not just about travel and it's not just about freedom. It's when you go to that next level and you're living a life of purpose. It's like, yeah, you can still travel, you can still be free, but you're doing it with a foundation of, I know my purpose and that makes my life rich. If you want to work with me personally, you can apply for coaching in the comment section. Finding your purpose, for me, has been one of the most enriching things. It's what really keeps me motivated to continue to grow myself as a person, to experience more of life, because I know that the more I expand, the more I'm able to give that to others through my work, through my coaching, through my courses. So say yes. Give yourself a big fat yes and start taking the steps when opportunities come, even if you don't know the way. Say yes and keep moving forward.